Welcome back. The Federal Reserve kicking off its first policy meeting of 2025 this morning. The central bank widely expected to hold interest rates steady despite President Trump's call to cut rates while speaking at the World Economic Forum last week.
Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately, and likewise, they should be dropping all over the world.
The inflation report for the month of December up nearly 3% from the year earlier, remaining above the Fed's target of 2%. The Biden administration leaving consumer and grocery prices up better than 20% on their term. Gasoline prices up 30% on Biden and Harris's term. Joining me now is former Atlanta Federal Reserve President and CEO Dennis Lockhart. Dennis, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you.
What kind of commentary would you expect from Jay Powell tomorrow?
Well, because I expect that in this meeting that they will not cut rates. I think he will probably repeat some of the themes that he used in December. That there's still work to be done on inflation. That the economy is performing well. That the labor market is very solid. And that the committee is going to stay focused on its dual objectives, and particularly the inflation objective to try to get it down to something closer to 2%.
You know, I've got to tell you, I think I blame the Fed for all these expectations, Dennis. I mean, look, the Federal Reserve Policy Committee has 4 new voters this year: Boston Federal Reserve President Susan Collins, Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee, St. Louis Federal Reserve President Alberto Mussolem, and Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmid. I'd like to know if they're going to be a little more guarded when it comes to their expectations. Because frankly, Dennis, the fact that the market was expecting 7 cuts this year, and the fact that the market was expecting what it was expecting last year, how does the Fed come up with these ideas to message out to the market so that we're all hanging on every word that they keep to the expectations that they set in the first place?
Well, it's very frustrating, I know, for those of you in the journalism profession, and certainly for the public in general, because it's 19 voices, only one of which really speaks for the committee, and that's Chair Powell. The rest of the people just basically provide their own opinions, and those opinions may or may not translate into policy at the end of the day. So you end up with really a lot of diverse opinions out there, and it's hard to draw conclusions. You mentioned the new voters. Let me just say, Maria, that in my experience, which is dated now, but was 10 years around the table, sometimes people will make very strong arguments, but they will not decide that it's enough to dissent. And even then, I think Chair Powell would be perfectly happy with 1 or 2 dissents. That's the nature of the process. But I'm not sure that these new voters are going to somehow change the course of Fed decision making.
Okay. And what are you expecting from the economy? I mean, President Trump is going full steam ahead with his agenda. He's delivering on what he promised on the campaign trail, but he's expecting to do a lot more. Now, I'll tell you this. There are analysts who do not expect that 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico to go into effect this Saturday. But that's what President Trump told us to expect, that he's going to put 25% tariffs on Saturday with Canada and Mexico. The analysts at Cowen think there will be a stay until March 1st, that it's just a threat. Colombia really got in line, didn't it, when Trump said you're going to see 25% tariffs and then it's going to go up to 50% in a week. But more than that, Dennis, President Trump is also wanting to tap into the capacity of energy in America, and that certainly will trigger growth and job creation. What are your thoughts on the macro story in the face of all of this?
I'm of 2 minds. I would say a base case, just judging from how the economy is performing, is that it will continue to perform well. We'll see probably gradual disinflation, and the labor market will stay very solid. That's the base case, but the tariffs and to some extent the mass deportations as well have shock potential, and that could really change the trajectory of the economy. And I would say the best guess is probably adverse direction as opposed to improving the economy. And so we shall see. We may know more in a week if the February 1st date is actually a date of implementation.
Yeah, we'll know more every day. I mean, welcome to Trump's world, week 2, when we're talking about so much every single day. It's unbelievable. David Towell, real quick, jump in here, sir.
I wanted to ask Dennis, I know that the Fed probably doesn't care much about the illiquidity of private equity funds for both investors and for the leadership in form of continuation funds and NAV loans. And it probably doesn't care that much about real estate sitting on banks' balance sheets that can't be refinanced. But I'm sure that the Fed is hearing clearly Trump's call for lower rates. Do you expect that Trump will get into it with the Fed and make them somewhat public enemy number one as it relates to the economy?
Well, certainly the Davos speech suggests that it's on his mind and that he's going to be calling for lower rates. And I think it creates a very awkward situation. The committee, again, my experience, my knowledge of Jay Powell is that they are completely committed to the 2 statutory objectives. I would say it's a rule of law kind of thing. And that as a group, as a committee, they are not going to deviate from that focus. So it could turn out to be a very awkward situation that develops if President Trump keeps calling for lower rates.
Well, we'll see. I mean, everybody can have an opinion, but I think you're right. The people want an independent Federal Reserve. No doubt about it.